see.
So I've been noticing a troubling pattern where Donald Trump has been holding his rallies. The last few weeks has been egregious. Howell, Michigan, La Crosse, Wisconsin, Johnstown, Pennsylvania. What do these places have in common? They're all sundown towns. This is where Donald Trump is choosing to hold his rallies. Sundown towns. They want to go back to fucking Dred Scott. Make America great again. When was America ever great? You got a presidential candidate for the GOP doing a sundown town tour around the country, not looking for political gain. He's fucking rallying the troops. These crybaby bitches want nothing but a civil war again. Make no mistake about it, folks. This is a real threat. These motherfuckers are domestic terrorists, and they need to be treated accordingly.
Well, good day, good people, and happy Labor Day. I wanted to step in because I usually don't do this, but I felt compelled to respond to the shenanigans that I have seen on the Shade Room involving the commentary from Brother Tyrese Gibson. First of all, you all, reading is fundamental, and it's super important that we understand the facts before we begin to speak on items when we are not fully aware of the dynamics of not only our conversation, but the repercussions of them. First of all, yes, there was a bill that was passed, but let's put it into context. Number one, it was called the COVID Hate Crimes Act. And while that bill was put into place as a response to the growing hate, rightfully so, to Asian Americans who were unfairly being attacked as a result of the hate that was spread by the Trump administration and his cronies during the COVID pandemic. The bill, though, what it did, it's important to understand, is that it expedited the review of hate crimes at the Department of Justice. It also authorized the Department of Justice to put forth grants to prevent hate crimes and COVID-related hate crimes, not just for Asian Americans, but for all Americans. So the bill did not do what Tyrese's question might lead you to think that it did. It's also important to note that that bill was passed by Congress, overwhelmingly 94-1 in the Senate and 374 votes to 62 votes in the House. It's very important to understand that the president cannot sign into law a bill that has not been passed by Congress. That is super important to understand. Further, the bill, which was good policy, was needed, but what that bill did was expand the Department of Justice's ability to not only track, but also expedite response to hate crimes during COVID. And yes, parts of the bill did speak specifically in its summary about what was happening to Asian Americans, but it applies to all Americans that were related to any type of hate crime during and related to COVID. Also, it was stated that we skipped over all of the Black and brown folks. That's absolutely not true, because President Biden signed into law the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill. Yes, that was a very important legislation which mandated that the federal government could charge someone federally for lynching and have up to 30 years in prison. Now, one might say, well, we don't have lynching anymore. Well, in fact, that bill, which was passed by Congress and signed by President Biden and championed by Vice President Harris. In fact, what it did is it expanded the jurisdiction of the Department of Justice, which means that should have the case of Ahmaud Arbery taken place while this law was in place, it would have meant that Ahmaud Arbery's killers could have been prosecuted by the federal government, and it would have been considered a lynching. And there has been numerous bills championed by President Biden and Vice President Harris that Congress has not passed. For example, the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act, which has been introduced 4 years ago and reintroduced. It's passed the House several times, but it has failed in the United States Senate. Why? Because we have not voted a Senate that has the courage to pass this bill. And the Justice in Policing Act, which was introduced by Karen Bass and other leaders in Congress, particularly members of the Congressional Black Caucus, would put accountability on police officers for crimes and murders such as the one that took place to George Floyd. That bill continues to be championed and pushed, but we actually have to vote to get a Congress in place that would pass that bill so that the president can sign it. But President Biden and Vice President Harris have called numerous times for Congress to pass that bill. It's so important for us to understand that what we say has repercussions, because sometimes you might hear this information and you may think that you're not going to vote because you're upset with those that are in office. But in fact, if we actually vote, we can vote people in the office that can pass the bills that a president can sign that can actually have an impact on our lives. So I say to you, brother Tyrese, thank you for engaging in conversation, but it's important for us to understand the facts and the repercussions. When we ask questions, yes, we should, but we got to make sure that when we're stating facts, that they're actually facts. So I invite all of you all to join us on Win with Black Women on Sunday night. So we have amazing Black women like Reese Colbert, Donna Brazil, Karen Finney, Bishop Leo Daughtry, Holly Holiday, and so many others that can give you the facts on what's happening in this country. It's so important, my people. This election is important, and we cannot lose it to mis and disinformation. Brother Tyrese, I invite you to come join us one Sunday and get more information. And by the way, congratulations on your new movie.
Look, first and foremost, welcome. I know everybody had a long holiday weekend, and hopefully, like me, you enjoyed it immensely. Power 96 says he doesn't read anything from the shade room. I don't listen to celebrities for political information. A couple of quick things before we really dive into the meat of it. The first video you saw, it's really interesting. The white guy, he sounded a little Italian too. I'm not totally sure, but he sounded a little Italian. But it's interesting that we see that more and more of white folks expressing these types of concerns. White folks expressing that how abhorrent certain things are, including what Donald Trump is currently doing on his tour. It's really, really interesting. We're going to get to that, the sundown towns, in just a moment. But I also wanted to address, which we're going to get into it a little bit more later as well, as that young lady broke it down. I mean, everybody jumped on Tyrese, as they should. I mean, Black press writers, Roland Martin, Reese Colbert, Katia Woods. The guy just simply spewed stuff. But you know, the symptom, the real issue for people like Tyrese, Black men like Tyrese, is that they will support slavery before they support a Black woman. And he cries about how his ex-wife is raking him over the coals in court. Well, maybe he's crying because it's a black woman that's doing this to him. Maybe he's just like the rest of them. He not like us. But um Jataka Edie from Win with Black Women is the young lady's name. Thanks, Greer. But maybe that's Tyrese's problem because it was it's stuff that you read when you in elementary school. You know how this works. You know, and that's the other thing. I'm glad Greer but Ben Crump is starting to be a problem. Ben Crump is starting to be a problem. You remember he marched 50 Cent on the Capitol Hill, and that was a total embarrassment with his love of Lauren Boebert. Um, he did nothing to correct 50 Cent. And then in this conversation, he went right along with it. Ben Crump went right along with it. Ben Crump is becoming a problem. Yeah, I know. I'm America's black attorney general. Don't get me started on that. Just a glorified ambulance chaser for black folks. This is what he's turning out to be, if you ask me. Yeah, he's getting folks some money, but don't make no mistake. When you see George Floyd's family settling for $27 million, Ben Crump is getting about 5 million of that. When you see Ahmaud Arbery's family or somebody else's family settling for 30, 40 million, Ben Crump is getting 30%, 33% of that. It ain't all about being a crusader who, this knight in shining armor. Not about that. Make no mistake. And I'm not. Listen. That's his hustle. That's his game. That's his shtick. He's a lawyer, but he's got to be more educated than what he showed there. He's got to be. He's got to be. I doubt he hangs out with Al Sharpton and folks like that. I doubt Al Sharpton would have stood there and allowed 50 Cent to embarrass him like that. Allowed Tyrese to spew blatant, flagrant lies. I doubt it. I seriously doubt it. But Ben Crump, eh, I mean, look, there are too many people who will allow celebrities to do and say anything they want. And they're yes men, yes men. Ben Crump should be long past the yes man type. Austin says Ben Crump is rent a lawyer. Dr. Nicole says they need to bring back Schoolhouse Rock. Michelle says Ben Crump needs to take a seat. Let some other black attorneys take these cases. Shaking my head. But he's got. If you're gonna get on like that, you have a responsibility, Ben Crump. You have a responsibility. And I know Dr. Chambers, if he's watching this morning, uh, he is spilling his coffee because that's his boy. But truth to power. R96 says Ben Crump has always been a problem. He is only about a dollar. Tell me a case where in a civil trial he has actually prosecuted defendant. Come on, that's a problem. Ben Crump is now a problem officially, right? Bottom line, yep, he was wrong. Um, so we're gonna dig into this stuff, but a couple other notes that we're gonna get into as well. Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown-Jackson says she is open to proposals to implement an enforceable code of ethics for justices, and she also was very, very. She expressed how upset she is about the court's decision on presidential immunity. Also, the University of Virginia suspended a campus tour program. Hey, Pam, this is in your neighborhood. They suspended a campus tour program that had been criticized for citing school founder Thomas Jefferson's ties to slavery. And another reason, again, why folks just can't listen to celebrities on matters of importance. We're going to get in, of course, that and no reparations for Black California residents after bills passed denies what a commission recommended. But as we said first, these sundown towns. One TikTok user pointed out this troubling pattern in the locations of the twice impeached, the 34 times convicted felon former President Trump's recent rallies in a video that has gone viral. It was also shared on X, where it amassed millions of views. Howell, Michigan. These are the places. These are the sundown towns that, if you look them all up, the history. Howell, Michigan. These are where Trump has chosen to hold his rallies. La Crosse, Wisconsin, Johnstown, Pennsylvania. The man in the video asks, what do these places have in common? Well, they're all sundown towns. This is where Donald Trump is choosing to hold his rallies. You got a presidential candidate for the GOP doing a sundown town tour around the country, not looking for a political gain. He is rallying the troops. And for those who don't know, the term sundown towns goes back to segregation. It refers to communities with a wholly white population where Black people were considered unsafe after nightfall. They were subjected to lynching and all types of disgusting hate crimes. They were prevented from living in those communities. And today, many of these communities that have these racist histories, they remain overwhelmingly white. And as many people said on social media, this is that Trump is holding his rallies there cannot be written off as a coincidence. This journalist, Jim Stewartson, wrote that Trump is intentionally visiting sundown towns. He says this isn't a dog whistle, it's a KKK hood over every single person who supports Donald Trump or the GOP. Then he puts in capital letters, enough. One account called the Mueller She Wrote on Twitter says it is not a coincidence that he keeps hosting rallies in sundown towns. Don't forget, he intentionally held a rally in Tulsa on the anniversary of the Tulsa race massacre. Joyce Vance, the former U.S. attorney in Alabama, noted that Trump had also held a rally in a sundown town in Alabama in 2021. Joyce writes, interesting notice recently that Trump is holding his rallies in sundown towns. This caught my interest when he chose Coleman, Alabama, my mother in law's hometown, as one of his 2021 stops for this campaign. Vance wrote, a sundown town is one that forbade blacks by ordinance or otherwise to live in it. Many of these places, including Coleman, posted signs to the effect of whites only within city limits after dark. As she notes, sometimes with far less sanitized language. Then she adds, could it be a coincidence that is bringing Trump to these places? Well, anything is possible, but Coleman, for instance, is way out of the way. Any number of places in Alabama would have been more suitable, Joyce says. Sometimes the dog whistle is actually words loudly spoken. And then one user compared what Trump is doing to what Vice President Kamala Harris is doing. The Democratic nominee is doing a freedom bus tour with 50 stops focusing on reproductive freedom, while Trump is going to sundown towns to rally the white supremacist vote. That person added, see the difference? Kamala looks to the future and restoring rights. Trump looks to the past and Jim Crow. Dr. Nicole says he's definitely rallying the troops in anticipation of losing the election. And that's what they've been talking about a lot in his camp. And of course, the whole we talked if you watch yesterday's show, the voter purge, in Texas and throughout the country. What they're doing to set up situations in which, I mean, the Supreme Court is already in his pocket. He's already got the Supreme Court. So um he just he doesn't anticipate he will not get the popular vote, but he doesn't anticipate at this point even getting the electoral college vote. And so they are establishing their forces. And as that uh, man said at the beginning of this broadcast, civil war, which is what they've been pushing for. They all been pushing for it. It's so interesting that it's been what, a year and a half ago, Greer started warning folks that it's war, and folks more recently have been caught catching on. Terrible. Power 96 says he was in Tulsa when Trump was there. The black people there refused to let Trump hold his Klan rally where Black Wall Street once was. And this is why. So getting to Tyrese, it is why that is, and folks like him, what they are doing is so dangerous, so egregious, and we always see in the comments. And I know David Youngblood. I don't know if David's with us this morning, but he generally says, "Oh, these guys don't vote or whatever." But the point is that they have such a big platform. I mean, Ice Cube again was at it again over the weekend. That prompted Luther Campbell to go after him. Uncle Luke went after Ice Cube, he even went after Tiger Woods. But from what I understand, there was a post that um, apparently came from the PGA Tour website or Twitter account. But apparently someone lifted it. It wasn't authentic. And it had a quote purportedly from Tiger Woods that slammed Vice President Harris. And Uncle Luke went full on ballistic. I mean, he tore. If you didn't know how he felt about Tiger Woods, now you know. I mean, he went in hard without blinking. Oh man. And so anyway, as we said, several journalists from the black media, the black press, Reese, Katia, of course, Roland Martin, went in on Tyrese. Um, as we showed you earlier, I showed you the pictures, and so he goes on to go against the Biden Harris for prioritizing Asians, which, as you saw in the beginning, that the bill people refer to it as the Asian hate bill, but the proper name is COVID. It's COVID uh, discrimination, hate, or whatever. I forget the name now, but nonetheless, and it did highlight Asian hate. Remember the marches for Asian hate? I remember Rihanna joining the march for Asian hate. Um, but that bill really spells out a lot of things in there that protects everybody, especially minorities. And Mike V says, Waka Flocka, Killer Mike, all these black folks into the shucking and jiving. Lil Wayne. I mean, it goes on and on. Um, they somebody said it best in that when we were talking about the whole sundown towns, you got uh, Harris and Walz on a bus calling it the Freedom Tour, and you got Trump and JD Vance doing sundown towns, and one wanted to go forward for freedom, The other one to go backwards to segregation and Jim Crow. It's just as simple as that. So the bill is called it's the S937 COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act, not the Asian Anti-Hate Crime Bill. Um, the bill was simply instituted in light of the spike in violent crimes committed against Asians. Um, I remember my wife and I were in Philadelphia, Chinatown, and we went into one of our favorite bakeries and coffee shops there. And prior to this moment, they had been wearing masks, and this was before the pandemic was declared. So it was around, I want to say February of 2020, late February, early March, because they declared the pandemic sometime in March, right? And this at this particular time we went in, they were not wearing masks. The young lady who's the manager said, explained to us the reason why they were afraid to wear masks. She said that many of her girlfriends, females, have been savagely beaten by men because they were wearing masks. American men, white American men, who were following none other than the former president. Because you remember, his thing was he was not, this wasn't real. Oh, it's nothing. Then he graduated to it being nothing to drinking bleach, right? Telling you to drink bleach. And so we got to see victims before it really got to the point where Congress and lawmakers had to act to protect Asian Americans and others. But Roland Martin says, I'm sick of celebrities talking about public policy and they do not fact check. They do no fact checking. He said Tyrese did a video claiming Asian Americans received a hate crime bill and black people did not. That is a 100% lie, Roland says. He says, I have debunked this lie on hashtag Roland Martin Unfiltered on several occasions. He says, I've also debunked the lie that there has never been in American history hate crime bills for African Americans. He also, Roland went to Instagram and Twitter and further criticized Tyrese and other celebrities who say there are no such similar protections for black and brown people. Roland broke it all down. So did Reese. Reese did a whole thing on it. She went on, it was a PBS show, I believe, and she broke it all down as well. So, we had planned to. Mike V is asking, have we given our thoughts on the VP and Walsh's interview? Here's Roland Martin. I don't know if Greer was going to play that or not, but nonetheless, so what got everybody's attention, which is again so ridiculous, so ridiculous. First and foremost, CNN did exactly what you thought they were going to do. Dana Bash did exactly what you thought that pathetic excuse for a news network did. All these Republican, it was like they went into the GOP and got questions from Mitch McConnell and everybody else. She was absolutely trash, is what Greer says, and I agree. And then that one question that about her race, and she took, she, and you understood this time why she didn't go low when they went low, right? She took the high road. Told how ridiculous the question was. Said, let's just move on. Next question. Headlines, headlines, and mainstream media. Um, yeah, you could tell the vice president was annoyed the whole time. Headlines went, Harris refuses to answer whether she's black. You let her take the vice presidential title away from her, take the Senate title away from her, senator title away from her, take the prosecutor title away from her, let her drive down a highway where the speed limit is 65 and she going 75. She'll quickly find she don't have to identify herself as black. Do I don't people I know I don't have to identify myself as black, but it's just ludicrous that you get and this is the problem. You give these folks they blasting her constantly. You won't sit down with the media. You won't sit down with the media and do a question Q&A. Well, you wasted her time. You absolutely wasted her time. And you could tell she was annoyed the whole time. She did a great job, but it was a pathetic performance once again by CNN. It was among among their worst performances, right up there with the debate. What will she do in the first 100 days? That's one of the questions. I mean, people say, "Oh, usually they ask that of." That's a dumb question. I don't care how far back you go to find that they asked Reagan or Carter or somebody. This is a dumb question. 496 says, if Tyrese would have said the judicial system makes it harder for whites to be convicted of hate crimes against black people, he would be on to something. But reading comprehension isn't his thing. It's so annoying when you have to talk about a Tyrese Gibson, being ill-informed or uneducated. But it makes it, like I said at the top, it makes it all the more alarming when you got a Ben Crump sitting there also putting on the tap dancing shoes, not doing anything about it. Yeah, CNN is desperate for views. Mike V. I mean, we like more views, but come on, have some sort of journalistic integrity, some sort of journalistic pride. Spineless CNN. CNN is awful, and this is what they do, and this is why my criticism of the Harris campaign is simply that you do stuff like this. And yes, there are black media that again, CNN was desperate for views, and so are the candidates. So is Trump, so is Harris, so is JD Vance, so is Walz. Yes, they're all desperate for views. But I contend over and over again, and I know I'm right. They can go anywhere with they could have gone anywhere with that interview. They could have sat down with anybody and got the same, if not more, views. And right, Greer, she's campaigning already. Why waste your time? The debate is coming up. Austin says there's a difference in memorizing lines for a movie and comprehending what you've memorized. It's true. It's true. But again, the vice president that Mike V, that was what we anticipated it to be. We anticipated that it was going to turn out as bad as it did. And the vice president and Coach Waltz held their own, did a great job despite the questions coming directly from apparent. It appeared that they came directly from the MAGA camp. But this is what they keep doing, and this, Jasmine Harris, Mike Michael Tyler, all you guys, Jen O'Malley. Uh, this is what you get when you continually put the black media and the black press on the back burner. You get foolishness like that, and y'all mess around, and then you find yourself in a situation that you scramble to try and get out of, and the solution is sitting right before you. And the solution has and always has been and probably will continue to be the black press. It's not that it's not that we'd go easy on any of them because we wouldn't. That's not if y'all watch Greer and I long enough, that's not our style. Maybe before Greer took over, let it be known. Stuff like that might be. But we do not do that. We do not do that. It's not what we do here. I mean, if all else fails, we just stick Barrington on them. So, and you know how well that would go. We'd have the that red button ready every time Barrington opened his mouth, but nonetheless, you know how it go. Um, yeah, David Youngblood says if she's walked out the door, she is called the N word. That's black enough for me, he says. And Mike Reed says Trump doing interviews babbling. That's the other thing. He's babbling. I'm gonna finish his sentence. My wife says I always go into the next thing before I finish the first thing. But um, Trump doing interviews babbling about absolutely nothing, and no one is asking about him being impeached twice and have 34 convictions, being qualified to run for POTUS. But right, that and the fact that what is he talking about? Somebody articulate for me. If you can articulate what he's talking about, then you should be like the president of Harvard, Yale, and all of them put together. You should be the president of all those institutions. Because he rambles and rambles and rambles, and you have no clue. If you're supporting him, you um explain why, because he hasn't been able to explain why somebody should support him. Just as much as Joe Biden, you got to the point where you start to understand, okay, wait a minute, this guy cannot represent, if you were a Biden supporter, this guy can't. He needs a timeout. Yeah. Another dumb question Austin says is when they ask, "What will you do on day one?" He says, "Attend the inauguration in balls that evening and unpack." Exactly. Exactly. I mean, although, Austin, if you recall, because of the disaster of the former administration, that first day before they as soon as they signed, swore in, they had a desk there, and Biden started signing all these executive orders to try and make sure certain things were on the verge, or I mean, on the way of getting straightened out. That this guy before him just totally was destroyed. Right, that was the thing, Power 96. Trump started talking about when the wind stops blowing. He started talking about bacon and the wind, and there's no energy when the wind stops blowing. And of course, his favorite, Hannibal Lecter. Yeah, and day one is executive orders is all she can do. But nonetheless, this is the miseducation, the misinformation, the disinformation, the flat out lies that are repeated by not only the politicians, but these celebrities. And more, unfortunately, for the most part, is black men celebrities. And like I said at the top, there's the only reason. You didn't get that with Obama. You didn't get that a black man. The only reason is that you have too many, um, too many black men who will not support a black woman. Um, and that's really the sad thing. They will find so many different reasons and ways not to support a black woman. And I mean, listen, I'm not in any way, I wanted to be clear, I'm not advocating for anyone. All I'm just giving you is facts. That's it. But you have too many. I mean, you got a couple of misguided, black women sprinkled in there. You're always gonna have your Candace Owens, you know, grifting for something. You're gonna have your sexy red who's gonna is okay with being uneducated. There are people who just they don't care that they don't have an education, that they're not educated on something. They don't care. I had a guy I went to school with named Jeff, high school, and Jeff didn't care about tests, didn't care about homework or anything like that. He did it when he did it, if he did it at all. And Jeff, we would say stuff like, Jeff would be like, "Where you going? Want to play some ball? Want to hoop it up a little bit?" Be like, "Nah, I gotta go home. I gotta go take this test. Gotta go do my homework." Y'all crazy. He would always say that. Y'all crazy. Like, wow, well, Jeff, you not doing no work. Why should I? The world gonna end. That's what Jeff used to say. Well, here we are. I am 38 years removed from high school. So, oh, yeah, Nancy Lieberman. And this is what the big that's right. That's what the big thing was about. I mean, that I lost interest with all the interest that was generated for the WNBA early on. And I was right there with it because I mean, to see Angel Reese and see Aja and all of them, um, it was just different. And then he had the Fever game the other day with the Sky, which the they broke not only attendance records, but as far as the money, the ticket prices. Um, and you know, them pushing Caitlin Clark so hard. Nancy Lieberman replaced Cheryl Swoops for the Fever game as commentator, and of course, Nancy Lieberman immediately started talking about Caitlin Clark for MVP. I mean, give me a break. First of all, she's not even rookie of the year. I know even my man Jay that we had on the show, great respect for him. I mean, he said that he believes that he tweeted that Caitlin Clark is the rookie of the year based on the performance against Angel the other day, Angel's team. And I just think that's wrong. Angels Caitlin Clark has come on lately and has, and has played uh great. Yeah, Cheryl Swoops and Nancy Lieberman were friends. And apparently Stephen A. Smith got in the mix, and of course, that is always volatile. I mean, he's a jerk anyway, an idiot. Whatever. But nonetheless, it sounds like, well, let's say it looks like, because you really can't always go on what you see on social media, but the back and forth seems like they're done. They're done. Uh, But David Youngblood says, David got a secret. He says, I'm going to let your audience in on a little secret. The secret? Trump is not bright, he says. ESPN Power 96 says, it's pushing Caitlyn like she is white Jesus. She is average to me. But it's really become what this whole presidential race is about, what is about now. It's about white versus black again, and that's what they want. They want this, as the man said at the top, the white man said at the top, and this civil war. And folks need to stop playing into it. Some of the responses this year that Caitlin, now of late, she's given more responsible responses, if you can say that. But the responses and non-responses she was given earlier in the season was really telling. Was really telling. It was very immature, very unsportsmanlike. And how about my girl Dawn? I'm glad she put Dawn up there. Dawn went on what I called a classic old-fashioned block party. She started blocking everybody. Stephen A. Smith, Tyrese. Um, I mean, she just started blocking everybody. I mean, I had a whole list that Dawn. Let me find that list. I had a whole list. Y'all wouldn't believe the people that Dawn was blocking on Twitter yesterday. I mean, it was a block party. Eh, she she just blocking ah just everybody. Shannon Sharp, she blocked Shannon Sharp. It just one Charlemagne, she blocked. She just thought Van Jones, Charleston White, she blocked. She just blocked every Nancy Lieberman, Ice Cube. She blocked them all. It was a pure block party. She just went off blocking folks. She didn't block Power 96 though. He was not having it. He would have found a way to get back in there. She'd have blocked him. Um, Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown-Jackson says she is open to proposals to implement an enforceable code of ethics for justices and lamented the court's presidential immunity decision. Over the weekend, she said a binding code of ethics is pretty standard for judges. And so I guess the question is the Supreme Court any different? Um, the president has called for a serious code of ethics, and he's even called for Congress to start looking into maybe an 18-year term limit or something like that. But we all know what Clarence Thomas and others have done, which is really any other court, whether it's a state court, federal court, whether it's a Commonwealth court, criminal court, whatever. A judge doing what Clarence Thomas and Alito and others have done would have been removed from the bench. That's the bottom line. Mimi TVA says, I'm with Dawn. She's, uh, Power 96 says, the red bone left no doubt. She blocked everybody under the sun. I love it. And Michelle says, Dawn, I hope that I wasn't blocked. Dawn was blocking folks like she was the Kembe Mutombo. She was on a blocking spree. But the Justice Ketanji Brown-Jackson, again, she said that she totally disagreed with that whole immunity ruling um, that has caused the sentencing for Donald Trump to be put off, and other situations with his criminal trials to be called into question. But again, we've said this time and again when they made that ruling. Right now, if you want to say that Trump, because of the ruling, is immune, if you want to say that a president is immune because of the ruling, a president can do whatever he wants as long as he says, as long as he couches it by saying that it's within his official, he's acting out of his official capacity, then Joe Biden needs to act accordingly. He's still the president. He needs to act accordingly. And I don't care if he's laying on Rehoboth Beach. I'm sure that, many of us, we lay on the beach and we got very little, if any, cell service. I'm sure that there's cell service for the president. I'm sure that Air Force One or someone hovering above Uh, they they got some serious hot spots for him. Make the call is all I'm saying. The University of Virginia suspended a campus tour program that had been criticized for citing school founder Thomas Jefferson's ties to slavery. The tours led by University Guide Service have been plagued by spotty attendance by student volunteers and issues with consistency in content, according to the university. The school had been in quote, close contact with the student led University Guide Service for 2 years to address a trend of issues and concerns surrounding guide attendance and tour consistency and to discuss plans for improvement, according to the University of Virginia. But the Jefferson Council, a conservative alumni group, had been calling for an end or change to the tour program, insisting that volunteers have been wrongly besmirching the legacy of the founder, Thomas Jefferson. The bottom line, we know Thomas Jefferson was a slave master. I mean, give me a break. But that's the whole playbook that you see, whether you uh you know, follow that Project 2025 or Trump's what did he call his thing? The whatever Agenda 47, all of that, all of that. And we've seen it play out once again in Florida and other places with the banning of books, with the banning of talking about slavery or even Martin Luther King in schools. So, Tyrese, this is what you're asking for. Also, what you're asking for is what happened in California. You remember we talked last year about this reparations bill, this ambitious legislation that aimed to atone for a legacy of racist policies that drove disparities for Black people from housing to education to health. Um, well, after all of that, um, the governor and the state legislator decided to go along with bills that would only condemn such practices, but not uh, follow the commission's total um, recommendations that included direct payments to African Americans. There won't be reparations, not in the form of monetary payments. That's just the bottom line. It's the bottom line. There will not be payments. So, and no surprise, no surprise. Oh, that's right. Mimi TVA is that's Barrington and Mimi, and he says this is bad. He said the snowflakes can't deal with the truth of America's slave past. Yes, Mimi TV. Hey, see, You never know where Barrington might be, where he might turn up. I'm telling you, Barrington is not to be played with. There you go. Let them sit down with Barrington. That's what I say, and that's what I've been saying. Let them sit down with Barrington. Power 96 says, heck no, I thought Republicans were proud of real American history. Jefferson was an enslaver and a child molester. Yep, never know, right, Mimi? Never know. Um, eh, but Tyrese and the rest of you guys, I mean, listen, how do you feel? This is the thing, and I think we had several of you guys say this before. Ask a so-called conservative, a Byron Donalds or a Tim Scott, how they feel about Trump in these sundown towns. Ask 'em. Be interesting to see what they say, right? We already know what they're gonna say. They're not gonna answer it, and they will try and spin it. And yes, that's what David. This is what I said before we go. I'm gonna lift up what David says. He says the Supreme Court now says the president is now king. So Biden should act like it to prevent Trump from ever coming back to power. Why not? They say you can do it. They have ruled not in Trump's favor per se. They ruled in the favor of anybody who has been and is the president of the United States. And well, yeah, and that might be present a problem on the campaign. But on the campaign trails, what you're saying, Greer? He said Byron and Tim. That is, oh, okay. Yeah, of course. They can't be on the campaign if they say anything to condemn that. But I don't think it's in their hearts to condemn it. They are whitewashed, if you will. So folks, next Tuesday, is it next? Yeah. A week from today is the debate. We will be all over the place. Oh, she's saying that Byron and Tim can't go to those sundown towns. How about that? Now that's interesting. We will be bringing you some information, details, and everything from the debate next Tuesday. And of course, we will be in DC for the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation's annual legislative conference all next week, and the National Newspaper Publishers Association's uh, leadership reception and leadership awards and reception, which takes place uh, that next Thursday night, not this Thursday, next Thursday night. I wonder if Dr. Nicole is coming with Mr. Durrett. I forgot to ask her that yesterday. Um, but the leadership reception is taking place in Washington next Thursday. It's going to be it won't be at the Marriott Marquis. It's going to be around the corner at the Conrad. So trying to I think that's a yes from Dr. Nicole. Um, yeah, a little bit. Conrad is a little bit more upscale, right? Uh-oh, we had a party. I told you I had a great weekend. It was a fun weekend. There we are. Look at that. I tell you, Greer. Don't be on my page, Greer. Don't be on my page. But so we'll be live from DC next week. We'll be doing a lot of stuff from DC, live and recorded and everything else. I don't know. Whatever news organizations do, we'll be doing it, but we'll be doing it better. I guarantee you that. But go to our YouTube page, hit subscribe, share, comment, etc., etc., etc. Do all of that. And we'll see you again in the morning. Thanks for watching. Let it be known.